The crystal chandelier cast fractured light across the ballroom floor as I watched my husband of 17 years hold another woman in his arms. The anniversary waltz, our anniversary waltz, had become a grotesque mockery of everything I had believed sacred. Hayes Kingston spun Tiffany Riker across the marble floor with the same tender grace he had once reserved for me. Her scarlet dress flared like spilled blood against the pristine white of my anniversary gown hanging abandoned in our bedroom upstairs. The guests' whispers cut through the orchestral melody like shards of glass. How could he? At their own anniversary party? Poor Gladys. But I wasn't poor. Not anymore. I was done. Tiffany's laughter rang out like wind chimes in a hurricane, beautiful and utterly destructive. She threw her head back, exposing the diamond necklace Hayes had given her. The same necklace I had admired in Tiffany & Company 3 weeks ago, thinking my husband might surprise me with it for our anniversary. He had. Just not the way I expected. My 15-year-old daughter Danielle stood beside me, her small hands clenched into fists. Her young face burned with an anger that mirrored the fire building in my chest. She had inherited my stubborn streak and her father's quick tongue, a combination that made her dangerous when provoked. "What is Dad doing, Mom?" she whispered, her voice tight with controlled rage. Everyone's staring. They were. 200 guests who had come to celebrate our marriage now watched it disintegrate in real time. Hayes's business partners, my book club friends, our neighbors, all witnesses to the systematic demolition of my dignity. Tiffany caught my eye over Hayes's shoulder and smiled. Not a guilty, apologetic smile, but something triumphant and predatory. She mouthed a single word that made my blood freeze. Mine. That's when Danielle broke. She strode across the dance floor like a warrior princess, her emerald dress swishing behind her. Her young voice cutting through the music. "Hey, homewrecker. That's my father, you're all over." The music died. Every conversation ceased. The entire ballroom held its breath. Tiffany turned, her lips curved in a cruel smile. "And you must be the daughter. How sweet. You think you've won something?" Danielle continued. "You think stealing a cheating husband is some kind of prize?" Tiffany's smile faltered, but she lifted her chin defiantly. "Little girl, you don't understand, adult." "I understand perfectly." Danielle's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the room. "I understand that you're a desperate woman who had to settle for another woman's leftovers. I understand that you're so pathetic, you had to destroy a family to feel important for 5 minutes." The guests gasped. Phones came out. This would be on social media within the hour. "Maybe you should teach your mother how to keep a man interested." Danielle's hands clenched into fists. "At least my mother isn't a cheap slut who breaks up families for fun." The collective gasp from the crowd was audible. Tiffany's face twisted with rage. "You little brat." Her hand shot up, palm aimed for Danielle's cheek. It never made contact. I moved without thinking. The sound of my hand connecting with Tiffany's cheek echoed through the ballroom like a gunshot. The force of it sent her stumbling backward into Hayes, who caught her with trembling hands. "Touch my daughter," I said, my voice deadly calm, "and I'll destroy you." Silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Tiffany's hand flew to her reddening cheek, her eyes wide with shock. Hayes looked between us, his mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. I took Danielle's hand and turned toward the exit. Our guests parted like the Red Sea, their faces a mixture of shock, admiration, and hungry anticipation for whatever came next. "Gladys, wait." Hayes called after me. "We need to talk." I paused at the ballroom doors and looked back at him one last time. He stood there in his expensive tuxedo, holding his mistress, surrounded by the ruins of our anniversary celebration. In that moment he looked like exactly what he was. A foolish man who had traded gold for fool's pyrite. "No, Hayes," I said, my voice carrying across the silent room. "We don't." As Danielle and I walked out into the night, I heard the guests' murmurs rising behind us like a tide. "Where is she going? What do you think she'll do?" I wouldn't want to be Hayes Kingston right now. If only they knew. By morning, Hayes Kingston would learn exactly what it meant to cross Gladys Kingston. Before we continue, please write in the comment which country you are watching this video. We love knowing where our global family is tuning in from. And if this is your first time on this channel, please subscribe. Your support helps us bring even more epic revenge tales of life. Enjoy listening. My name is Gladys Kingston, and until 12 hours ago I believed in fairy tales. I had spent 17 years building a life with a man I thought was my prince. We met in college. Hayes, the charming business major with dreams of empire, and me, the literature student who believed love could conquer anything. He was magnetic, ambitious, and when he smiled at me across that crowded library, I felt like the heroine of every romance novel I'd ever read. We married young, built a home, raised our daughter. I sacrificed my dreams of writing for his dreams of wealth. While he climbed corporate ladders, I held down the foundation of our family. I organized his schedule, entertained his clients, supported his ambitions, and never once complained when he worked late or traveled for business. The house, our beautiful colonial mansion with its wraparound porch and sprawling gardens, that was mine. My inheritance from my grandmother, Naomi Whitmore, who had built a small fortune in real estate before passing it to me with one condition: never let a man make you forget your worth, child. I should have listened to her sooner. The signs had been there for months. Hayes coming home with new cologne. Business trips that seemed to require more formal wear than usual. Phone calls that made him step outside. Late nights that stretched later and later. But it was Danielle who first spoke the words I couldn't bear to think. "Mom," she had said 3 weeks ago, sitting on my bed while I folded Hayes's laundry. "Dad's cheating, isn't he?" I had dropped the shirt I was holding. "Danielle, what a horrible thing to say about your father." "It's not horrible if it's true." She was so matter-of-fact, so adult in that moment that it broke my heart. "I see how he looks at his phone. How he dresses differently now. How he doesn't really see you anymore when you're in the same room. Your father loves our family. He loves himself, Mom. And you deserve better." Out of the mouths of babes. I had pushed the thought away, buried it under plans for our anniversary celebration. I threw myself into organizing the perfect party, the same way I had thrown myself into being the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect hostess. If I could just make everything beautiful enough, maybe the cracks wouldn't show. But cracks have a way of becoming chasms. The anniversary party had been my last-ditch effort to resurrect something that was already dead. I spent weeks planning every detail: the orchestra, the flowers, the menu that featured all of Hayes's favorites. I even bought the dress, a stunning white gown that echoed our wedding day, hoping to remind him of the promises we had made. Instead, I watched him make new promises to someone else. Tiffany Riker, his 28-year-old marketing coordinator. Blonde, ambitious, and apparently patient enough to wait for the perfect moment to claim her prize publicly. The ride home from the anniversary party was silent except for the sound of Danielle's angry breathing beside me in the passenger seat. I had driven us to the hotel in my own car. Thank God for small favors. At least I didn't have to endure Hayes and his mistress in my space. "Are you okay, Mom?" Danielle asked as we pulled into our driveway. I looked at our house, the house that had sheltered our family, hosted birthday parties and Christmas mornings, witnessed bedtime stories and first day of school photos. It stood there in the moonlight like a beautiful lie. "I will be," I said, and for the first time in months I meant it. We climbed the front steps together. I unlocked the door with hands that weren't shaking anymore. The fury had crystallized into something harder, colder, more dangerous. "Purpose. What are we going to do?" Danielle asked. I looked at my daughter, my brilliant, fierce, fearless daughter who had inherited the best parts of both Hayes and me. She deserved better than growing up watching her mother be humiliated. She deserved to see what real strength looked like. "We're going to pack," I said. "And then we're going to show your father exactly what he's lost." The first call I made was to Kristen Austin, the real estate agent. "Kristen, it's Gladys Kingston." I glanced at the clock. 11:47 p.m. "I need you to list my house. Tonight." "Gladys? Is everything—" "Wait, did you say tonight?" "Yes. The sooner the better. I want it on the market by morning." There was a pause. "Honey, are you sure about this? It's awfully sudden." I've never been more sure of anything in my life. While Danielle packed her room, I moved through our home with military precision. 17 years of marriage yields a lot of possessions, but I was surprisingly selective. I took my grandmother's jewelry, my books, my photographs with Danielle, and my personal documents. Everything else could rot for all I cared. The hardest part was our bedroom. The king-size bed where I had slept alone more nights than together in recent months. The walk-in closet where Hayes's expensive suits hung beside my conservative dresses. The dresser where our wedding portrait sat, mocking me with its frozen happiness. I took the portrait and walked downstairs to the kitchen. The gas stove lit with a soft whoosh. I held the photograph over the flame and watched our younger selves curl and blacken at the edges. Hayes's face disappeared first, consumed by fire until only my smiling image remained. How appropriate. The second call was to my bank, the emergency line for valued customers. Mrs. Kingston, how can I help you at this hour? I need to move money from my joint account to my personal account. All of it. That's quite a large sum, ma'am. Are you certain? Completely certain. And I need to freeze the joint account immediately after. My grandmother's inheritance hadn't just bought our house. It had seeded Hayes's business ventures, funded his dreams, bankrolled our lifestyle. Legally, that money was as much mine as his. Morally, it was mine alone. He had forfeited his claim the moment he put his hands on another woman. By 2 a.m. Danielle and I had loaded my car with everything that mattered. The house felt hollow around us, like a beautiful shell with its soul extracted. Mom, look at this, Danielle said, holding up her phone. The screen showed a shaky video of the anniversary party, specifically the moment I slapped Tiffany. The caption read, "Wife slaps husband's mistress at anniversary party #dramalert #justice #karma woman." It had already been viewed 50,000 times. Great, I muttered. I'm going viral for all the wrong reasons. Are you kidding? Danielle grinned. Mom, you're a legend. Look at these comments. She scrolled through hundreds of responses. Queen behavior. This is what happens when you mess with the wrong woman. That slap was personal and I'm here for it. Find someone who defends their kids like this mom. Despite everything, I felt a smile tug at my lips. Maybe going viral wasn't so bad after all. The third call was to Mrs. Melinda Jasper, the most ruthless divorce attorney in the state. I had met her at charity events. A sharp-eyed woman with silver hair and a reputation for leaving unfaithful husbands financially and socially decimated. Mrs. Jasper? This is Gladys Kingston. I need your help. Mrs. Kingston. I saw the video. Quite the right hook you have there. It was a slap. Even better. More elegant. What can I do for you? I want a divorce. Fast, thorough, and devastating. My specialty. I'll have papers drawn up within hours. Do you have grounds? I thought of Tiffany's hands on my husband's chest, of their intimate laughter, of the way he had looked at her like she was the only woman in the room. Oh, Mrs. Jasper, do I have grounds? Excellent. We'll destroy him legally and leave him grateful for the privilege. By dawn, Danielle and I were checked into the Fairmont Hotel downtown, a beautiful suite with a view of the city Hayes thought he owned. We ordered room service and watched the sunrise paint the skyline in shades of gold and pink. My phone buzzed constantly. Text messages from concerned friends, missed calls from Hayes, notifications from social media. I ignored them all except one. Kristen Austin, house listed. Already have 3 interested buyers. This is going to sell fast. I smiled and poured myself another cup of coffee. Hayes Kingston was about to learn that actions have consequences. And I was just getting started. Hayes must have arrived home around 3 a.m., probably expecting to find me waiting with tears and recriminations. Instead, he found Kristen's for sale sign stabbed into our front lawn like a sword through his heart. I know this because Danielle was monitoring his social media accounts from our hotel suite. Hayes had posted a series of increasingly frantic status updates. 2:47 a.m., coming home to sort things out. Love always wins. 3:23 a.m., what the hell is happening? 3:25 a.m., Gladys, if you're reading this, call me now. 3:31 a.m., photo of the for sale sign. This has to be a mistake. Then nothing for 6 hours. At 9:30 a.m. sharp, Mrs. Melinda's process server knocked on what used to be our front door. Hayes answered in yesterday's wrinkled tuxedo, his hair disheveled, his eyes bloodshot. According to the server, whom I had specifically requested to be a woman, Hayes went paper white when he saw the divorce documents. These are some serious allegations, the server told me later. Adultery, emotional abuse, financial infidelity. You've got grounds to take him for everything. That's the plan, I replied. Hayes tried calling me 17 times that morning. I let each call go to voicemail, then deleted them without listening. There was nothing he could say that would matter now. Dad, I was busy. I met with Mrs. Melinda to review our strategy. I called my grandmother's financial advisor to secure my assets. I researched apartments and schools in different districts. Anywhere but here, anywhere Hayes's shadow couldn't reach us. The beauty of your situation, Mrs. Melinda explained over lunch at the country club, is that you hold all the cards. The house is in your name, inheritance property. The business was funded with your money. You've been the model wife and mother while he's been publicly unfaithful. A judge will take one look at this case and hand you everything. What about Danielle? Full custody. No judge awards joint custody to a man who brings his mistress to his anniversary party. He'll be lucky to get supervised visitation. The afternoon brought new developments. Kristen called to inform me that all 3 interested buyers had submitted offers above asking price. A bidding war was developing. Then Danielle burst into our suite with news that made my day complete. Mom, you have to see this. She was practically bouncing with excitement. Tiffany got fired. She showed me her phone screen, a leaked video from inside Hayes's company. Apparently, Tiffany's boss, Mr. Graham, had been at our anniversary party. He had witnessed the entire spectacle and Monday morning brought swift corporate justice. Miss Riker. His voice was ice-cold on the recording. Conduct unbecoming. Moral turpitude. Disruption of workplace harmony. Clean out your desk. Security will escort you out. The video showed Tiffany's face crumpling as she realized her career was over. She had traded her job, her reputation, and her future for a man who was about to lose everything. Poetic justice at its finest. My phone rang. Not Hayes this time. A number I recognized as belonging to my father-in-law, Kingston Nicholas. Gladys. His deep voice was rough with emotion. What the hell has my son done? Kingston Nicholas was old school. A man who believed in honor, commitment, and keeping your word. He had built his construction empire from nothing, and he expected his sons to uphold the family name with dignity. You saw the video, I said simply. I saw my son make a fool of himself and disrespect the finest woman he'll ever know. He paused. I'm ashamed of him, Gladys. And I'm sorry. It's not your fault. It is. I raised him better than this. If there's anything you and Danielle need. We'll be fine, Kingston. But thank you. After I hung up, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. For so long I had been walking on eggshells trying to save a marriage that was already dead. Now with the truth exposed and my path clear, I could finally breathe. Danielle ordered us dinner from the hotel restaurant while I reviewed the divorce papers. Mrs. Melinda had been thorough. She was demanding the house, alimony, child support, and half of Hayes's business assets. By the time she was done with him, he'd be lucky to afford a studio apartment. Do you think Dad will fight it? Danielle asked, picking at her salmon. He can try, I said. But he doesn't have a leg to stand on. Mrs. Melinda called it the most slam-dunk divorce case of her career. That's when my phone rang again. Hayes calling from a number I didn't recognize. I almost declined the call, but something made me answer. Hello, Hayes. Gladys, where are you? We need to talk. His voice sounded different. Smaller. Desperate. There's nothing to discuss. Please, just listen. I listened for 17 years. I'm done listening. The house, you can't sell the house. This is our home. Danielle's home. The house is my home. My inheritance. You're just a tenant whose lease has expired. I could hear him breathing heavily on the other end. What about my clothes? My things? What about them? Gladys, please. Don't do this. We can work through this. There is no we, Hayes. There's you and your mistress, and there's me and our daughter. You made your choice. It was a mistake. No, it was a choice. A series of choices. Every secret meeting, every lie, every time you looked me in the eye and pretended to be faithful. Those were choices. Silence. You've frozen our accounts, he said finally. My accounts. And yes, I have. That's my money too. Actually, it's not. You might want to review the prenup you signed, Hayes. The one your lawyer assured you was just a formality. Turns out it wasn't. The prenup had been my grandmother's idea. Protect what's yours, child, she had said. Men can be wonderful, but they can also be weak. This is insane, Gladys. You're destroying our family over one night. I'm saving our family from your lies. Danielle and I deserve better than a man who parades his mistress in front of us like we're nothing. Where will I sleep tonight? The question was pathetic. A grown man asking his wife where he would sleep after publicly humiliating her. That's not my problem anymore, Hayes. Maybe ask Tiffany. Oh wait, I heard she got fired today. Karma works fast, doesn't it? I hung up and powered off my phone. Danielle was watching me with something like awe. Mom, you're incredible. I'm tired, I said. Tired of being taken for granted. Tired of making excuses for people who don't deserve them. Tired of being small so other people can feel big. You were never small, Mom. You were just compressed. My brilliant daughter. How had she gotten so wise so young? That night I slept better than I had in months. No more lying awake wondering where Hayes was, who he was with, what lies he would tell me in the morning. No more pretending not to notice the smell of perfume that wasn't mine, the lipstick stains on his collar, the way he flinched when I touched him. Freedom, I discovered, was the most comfortable pillow in the world. Tuesday morning brought a knock at our hotel suite door. I opened it to find a young woman with short brown hair and nervous eyes. Mrs. Kingston? I'm Jessica, Mr. Kingston's assistant. He sent me to talk to you. He sent his assistant to handle his divorce? How very Hayes. I stepped aside to let her in. Would you like coffee? Jessica looked uncomfortable but nodded. She kept glancing around the suite like she expected Hayes to jump out from behind the curtains. He's desperate, Mrs. Kingston. He's been sleeping on his office couch and he can't access any of the business accounts without your signature. The company is essentially frozen. Good. The investors are starting to ask questions. The Sawyer deal is falling through because Mr. Kingston can't provide the financial statements they requested. Even better. Jessica, can I ask you something? She nodded. How long have you known about Tiffany? Her face reddened. I can't discuss. You can. Your boss is about to be unemployed and I'm guessing your job security isn't looking too good either. She sighed. 8 months. But I think it's longer than that. They weren't exactly subtle about it. 8 months. I let that sink in. Our anniversary was in April. He had been planning this humiliation since last summer. Did everyone in the office know? Most people, yes. I'm sorry, Mrs. Kingston. I thought about saying something, but it wasn't your place. I understand. Jessica looked relieved. He's asking if you'll meet with him. Just to talk. Tell Mr. Kingston that all communication goes through my attorney from now on. After Jessica left, I called Mrs. Melinda with an update. 8 months of documented workplace affair? She sounded delighted. Gladys, this keeps getting better. I can use this to argue that he's been systematically planning to destroy your marriage. We can go after his pension, his stock options, everything. Do it. There's something else. I've been digging into his finances and there are some irregularities. Large cash withdrawals, payments to what look like shell companies. Either your husband is phenomenally bad with money, or he's been hiding assets. Hiding them where? I'm not sure yet, but I have a forensic accountant working on it. If he's been squirreling away money in preparation for leaving you, it's going to backfire spectacularly. That afternoon, Danielle and I went apartment hunting. We found a beautiful 2-bedroom place overlooking the river, completely different from our suburban mansion. Modern, minimalist, and entirely ours. I like it, Danielle said, standing on the balcony. It feels clean. Clean of what? Lies. Pretending. The smell of Dad's cologne that he only started wearing after he met her. We signed the lease that evening. My phone had been buzzing all day with calls from Hayes's number, his office, numbers I didn't recognize. I ignored them all until one call came through from a number that made my blood run cold. Tiffany Riker. I answered on the last ring. This should be interesting. You psycho bastard, she hissed. You ruined my life. I'm pretty sure you did that yourself. I lost my job because of you. You lost your job because you're a homewrecker who couldn't keep her hands off a married man at a public event. That's on you, sweetheart. Hayes loves me. Hayes loves himself. You're just convenient. When the money runs out and the attention dies down, you'll find out exactly how much you mean to him. We're together now. We're happy. Where are you staying tonight, Tiffany? Silence. Because Hayes doesn't have access to his accounts anymore. And last I heard, you don't have a job. So where exactly are you two lovebirds planning to build your happily ever after? This isn't over, she said, her voice shaking. You're right. It's not over. It's just beginning. And honey, you picked the wrong family to mess with. I hung up and immediately blocked her number. That evening, as Danielle and I enjoyed room service in our suite, my phone rang one more time. The caller ID made me pause. Zachary Kingston. Hayes' younger brother. I debated answering. Zachary was different from Hayes. Quieter, more thoughtful, less consumed with appearances and status. He ran a small tech startup and lived in a modest townhouse across town. We had always gotten along well, but family loyalty ran deep. Hello, Zachary. Gladys. His voice was tired. I'm guessing you know why I'm calling. Your brother finally came crawling to you? About an hour ago. He showed up at my door with a suitcase and that woman begging for somewhere to stay. And I told him he could stay in my guest room for 1 week. She couldn't. Despite everything, I felt a flicker of sympathy for Zachary. Hayes had probably expected his little brother to welcome him with open arms and no questions asked. That must have gone well. She threw a tantrum, called me a judgmental prick and stormed off. Haven't seen her since. And Hayes. Hayes is sitting in my living room drinking my beer and explaining how this is all a misunderstanding. How you're overreacting. How Tiffany doesn't mean anything to him. Do you believe him? A long pause. Gladys, I saw the video. I saw how he looked at her. That wasn't nothing. No. It wasn't. For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. Hayes has been heading for this crash for years. Maybe hitting bottom will wake him up. Maybe. But it won't be my problem anymore. Yeah. I figured. Another pause. Danielle doing okay? She's stronger than both her parents combined. She gets that from you. After I hung up, I felt something unexpected. Gratitude. Not everyone in Hayes' family was blind to his faults. It was a small comfort, but in the wreckage of my marriage, I'd take what I could get. Wednesday morning brought the best news yet. Kristen called with an update that made me laugh out loud. Gladys, you're not going to believe this. We have 6 offers, all above asking. But the highest one? It's from Sawyer Industries. The same Sawyer that Hayes was trying to make a deal with? The very same. Apparently, Mr. Sawyer was at your anniversary party. He saw the whole thing and decided he didn't want to do business with Hayes anymore. But he's very interested in your house. How much? When she told me the number, I had to sit down. It was nearly double what we had paid for the house, enough to set Danielle and me up for life. Accept it, I said without hesitation. Don't you want to think about it? Kristen, I've never been more certain of anything. Accept Sawyer's offer. That afternoon, Mrs. Melinda called with news of her own. We found Hayes' hidden accounts, she said, sounding like a cat who had caught a very fat mouse. Offshore investments, cryptocurrency wallets, even a safety deposit box registered under his mother's maiden name. He's been planning his exit strategy for over a year. How much? Close to $2 million. All hidden from you, all accumulated during your marriage using funds that were legally yours as well as his. The betrayal cut deeper than I expected. It wasn't just the affair anymore. It was the systematic, calculated destruction of our marriage. Hayes hadn't just fallen into temptation. He had planned my abandonment with the precision of a military campaign. Can we get it back? All of it. Plus damages for fraud. Plus my fees, which he'll be paying. By the time I'm done with him, Hayes Kingston will be lucky to afford ramen noodles. That evening, Danielle and I celebrated with ice cream sundaes from room service. She was doing homework at the desk while I reviewed real estate listings on my laptop. Not for us, but for investment properties. With the house sale money and the recovered funds, I was going to be wealthy enough to build a new life entirely on my terms. Mom, Danielle said without looking up from her history textbook. I'm proud of you. For what? For not staying. For showing me that women don't have to accept being treated badly. For being strong even when it hurt. I closed my laptop and went to hug my daughter. She was taller now, almost as tall as me, and when had that happened? When had my little girl become this fierce, insightful young woman? I'm proud of you too, I whispered into her hair. For standing up to Tiffany. For defending our family. For being braver than your old mother. You're not old. And you're the bravest person I know. That night I finally felt ready to listen to Hayes's voicemails. There were 23 of them, spanning from pathetic pleading to angry demands to bargaining attempts. The last one left just an hour ago was different. Gladys. His voice was hollow, defeated. I know you're not going to forgive me. I know I've lost you forever. But please don't take Danielle away from me. She's all I have left. For just a moment I felt a twinge of the old sympathy. But then I remembered the way he had spun Tiffany around our dance floor, the way he had looked at her like she was everything he had ever wanted, the way he had planned to discard me like yesterday's newspaper. Hayes Kingston had made his choices. Now he would live with them. Thursday morning brought unexpected visitors. I was having breakfast with Danielle in the hotel restaurant when Hayes walked in. He looked like hell, unshaven, wearing the same clothes from 2 days ago, his eyes red-rimmed and desperate. Behind him, trying to look brave but failing miserably, was Tiffany Riker. The restaurant fell silent. Other guests recognized us from the viral video and smartphones appeared like magic. We were about to go viral again. Hayes approached our table with the careful steps of a man walking through a minefield. Gladys. Danielle. He tried to smile at his daughter, but she looked right through him. You have 5 minutes, I said without looking up from my eggs Benedict. Then I'm calling security. He sat down uninvited. Tiffany hovered behind him, clearly uncomfortable with the public setting. This has gone far enough, Hayes said. You've made your point. You're angry, I understand that, but do I look angry to you? I finally met his eyes. Because I'm not angry anymore, Hayes. I'm free. Free. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're destroying our family out of spite. I'm protecting our family from your lies. Danielle had been silent, but now she spoke up. Dad, why did you bring her here? All eyes turned to Tiffany, who was fidgeting with her purse strap and looking increasingly panicked. Tiffany and we're together now, Hayes said. I wanted you both to understand that this isn't just some fling. We love each other. Love. Danielle's voice was ice. Dad, she left you the moment she found out you were broke. Hayes's face went white. That's not, she didn't leave me. Danielle pulled out her phone and showed him a screenshot. Her Instagram from last night. Single and ready to mingle. #new chapter #bye boy. I watched the blood drain from Hayes's face as he turned to look at Tiffany. She was backing away from our table, her eyes darting toward the exit. Tiff. His voice cracked like a teenager's. What is this? I can't do this anymore, Hayes. She was almost whispering now, aware that every word was being recorded by a dozen phones. I'm sorry. And then she ran. Literally ran out of the restaurant, leaving Hayes sitting at our table like a man who had just watched his world explode. The silence stretched for 30 seconds. A full 30 seconds of Hayes staring at the door Tiffany had fled through while his wife and daughter watched his final humiliation. She's gone, he whispered. Yes, I said gently. She is. But she said she loved me. She loved what you could give her. Now that you can't give her anything. I shrugged. People like Tiffany don't love people, Hayes. They love opportunities. Danielle leaned forward, her voice cutting but not cruel. Dad, she was using you. Everyone could see it except you. Hayes buried his face in his hands. For a moment he looked like the young man I had fallen in love with all those years ago. Vulnerable, lost, human. But then I remembered the past 8 months of lies and my heart hardened again. Your 5 minutes are up, I said, signaling for the waiter. Gladys, wait. Hayes grabbed my wrist as I started to stand. Please. I know I screwed up. I know I hurt you. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling, start over. Let go of my arm, Hayes. I've always loved you. You must be joking right now. I pulled my arm free and stood up. Danielle was already on her feet beside me, her young face set with determination. Goodbye, Hayes, I said. My lawyer will be in touch. As we walked away, I heard him call out one last time. What am I supposed to tell people? How do I explain this? I stopped and turned back to him. Every eye in the restaurant was on us. Every phone was recording, and I wanted to make sure my words were crystal clear. Tell them the truth, Hayes. Tell them that you traded a woman who loved you for 17 years for someone who couldn't love you for 17 days. The restaurant erupted in whispers and scattered applause. Someone shouted, "You go, girl," from across the room. Hayes sat alone at our table, surrounded by the ruins of his dignity, as Danielle and I walked out into the morning sun. Friday brought the phone call I had been dreading. "Mrs. Kingston?" The voice was young, unfamiliar. "This is Danny Jonah from Channel 7 News. We'd like to interview you about the viral video from your anniversary party." "Not interested." "We're prepared to offer compensation." "Not interested." I hung up, but the calls kept coming. Local news, national news, social media influencers, even a documentary filmmaker who wanted to tell my story of empowerment. The anniversary party video had exploded beyond anything I could have imagined, spawning memes, think pieces, and heated debates about marriage, infidelity, and public humiliation. I ignored them all. This wasn't about fame or attention, it was about justice. But Hayes apparently had different ideas. That evening, as Danielle and I were packing the last of our belongings from the hotel, we were moving into our new apartment on Saturday, the news came on. Channel 7's evening broadcast led with a story that made my blood freeze. Tonight, an exclusive interview with Hayes Kingston, the husband at the center of a viral video that sparked national conversation about marriage and forgiveness. There he was, sitting across from an overly sympathetic anchor, looking like a man who had lost everything, which to be fair he had. "Hayes," the anchor said in her most compassionate voice, "tell us what happened that night." "Well, Rebecca, it's been a very difficult time for my family." Hayes looked directly into the camera. "I made a mistake, a terrible mistake, and my wife is understandably hurt. But I never expected her to react so extremely." I felt Danielle stiffen beside me on the hotel bed. "When you say extremely..." "She's taken our daughter away from me, frozen our bank accounts, put our family home up for sale. All over one dance with a colleague." "One dance?" The anchor leaned forward. "But reports suggest there was an ongoing affair." "That's simply not true, Rebecca. Tiffany was a friend, nothing more." My wife misinterpreted the situation and reacted with violence and vindictiveness that's completely destroyed our family. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He was rewriting history on live television, painting himself as the victim and me as an unstable, vengeful wife. "What would you say to Gladys if she's watching tonight?" Hayes looked directly into the camera, his eyes brimming with crocodile tears. "Gladys, if you're watching this, I love you. I've always loved you. Come back. Bring Danielle. Let's work this out. Let's heal our family together." The interview continued for another 10 minutes. Hayes painted a picture of a devoted husband blindsided by his wife's jealous rage. He mentioned my inheritance wealth, and implied that I was using money as a weapon. He talked about Danielle being manipulated and turned against her father. When it was over, I sat in stunned silence. "Mom," Danielle said quietly, "people aren't going to believe that, are they?" Before I could answer, my phone exploded. Text messages, calls, notifications. The internet had responded to Hayes' interview with swift and merciless judgment. The comments on the news station's Facebook page were brutal. This man really thought he could gaslight the entire internet. "Sir, we have video evidence. We saw you grinding on that woman at your anniversary party. One dance. That dance looked like foreplay with an audience." The audacity of this man to play victim after humiliating his wife publicly. His daughter defended her mom and he thinks the wife is manipulating the kid? But the most devastating response came from an unexpected source. Someone had posted security footage from Hayes' office building, apparently leaked by a sympathetic security guard, showing Hayes and Tiffany in compromising positions in the parking garage, the conference room, and the executive elevator over the course of several months. The timestamps proved their affair had been going on for exactly 8 months, just as Jessica had said. Within hours, Hayes' television appearance had backfired spectacularly. The hashtag gaslighting was trending nationwide. Memes flooded social media showing Hayes' face with captions like, "Tell me you're a narcissist without telling me you're a narcissist," and "When the audacity is audacious G." But the real blow came Saturday morning. I was signing papers for our new apartment when Mrs. Melinda called with news that made me sit down hard. "Gladys, you need to see this. Kingston Nicholas just issued a public statement." "Hayes' father?" "The very same. He's disowning Hayes. Publicly." She read the statement over the phone. "The Kingston family has built its reputation on integrity, honor, and respect for family values. My son Hayes Kingston has violated every principle this family stands for. His public humiliation of his wife and daughter is inexcusable, and his attempt to manipulate public opinion through false narratives is beneath contempt. Effective immediately, Hayes Kingston is removed from all family business interests and is no longer welcome at family gatherings. The Kingston name will not be associated with his disgraceful behavior. Gladys and Danielle Kingston have my full support and will always be family to me. Oh my God, I breathed. It gets better. He's also transferring Hayes' shares in the family construction business to a trust fund for Danielle. Hayes just lost his inheritance. I had to hand it to Kingston Nicholas. When he cut ties, he cut them completely. Hayes wasn't just losing his wife and daughter. He was losing his entire identity. My phone rang immediately after Mrs. Melinda hung up. Kingston Nicholas himself. Gladys, did you hear? I did. Kingston, you didn't have to. Yes, I did. That boy has disgraced everything his mother and I taught him. But more than that, he hurt you and Danielle, and I won't stand for it. His voice was thick with emotion. You've been the best daughter-in-law a man could ask for. You supported Hayes when he was building his career. You gave us beautiful Danielle. You brought grace and warmth to our family. What he did to you, it's unforgivable. What about Hayes? He's still your son. My son died the moment he decided his marriage vows were suggestions instead of sacred promises. This stranger wearing his face will have to live with the consequences of his choices. After the call, I sat in my new living room, our new living room, and tried to process what had happened. In less than a week, Hayes had lost his wife, his daughter, his home, his money, his mistress, his job security, his public reputation, and now his family. It was more thorough than anything I could have planned. That evening, Zachary called with an update that completed Hayes' destruction. He's gone, Zachary said without preamble. Gone. I gave him a week. It's been 5 days, but I came home to find him packing. Said he couldn't stay in this city anymore. Too many people recognize him. Where's he going? He wouldn't say. Just kept muttering about starting over somewhere else, maybe the West Coast. Zachary paused. Gladys, I've never seen him like this. He's broken. Good, I said, and I meant it. Is it though? I mean, he's still Danielle's father. Biology doesn't make you a father, Zachary. Being there does. Putting your child first does. Protecting your family does. Hayes chose to protect his ego instead. Yeah. You're right. He sighed. For what it's worth, I think you and Danielle are better off without him. We know we are. 6 months later, I stood in the kitchen of our new apartment, making breakfast for Danielle before school. The morning sun streamed through windows that had never witnessed lies or betrayal. Everything here was clean, honest, ours. The divorce had been finalized 3 weeks ago. Mrs. Melinda had been as ruthless as promised. Hayes walked away with his car, his clothes, and enough money to survive for maybe 6 months if he lived frugally. Everything else came to me. The house sale proceeds, the recovered hidden assets, his business shares, and a monthly alimony payment that would ensure Danielle and I never wanted for anything. Mom, you made the news again, Danielle said, holding up her phone over her cereal bowl. I groaned. What now? Good news this time. Local woman turns divorce settlement into successful investment portfolio. They're calling you a financial genius. It was true. With my newfound wealth, I had hired a financial advisor and begun investing in real estate, stocks, and small businesses. The portfolio was performing beautifully, ensuring Danielle's college fund was secure and my retirement was guaranteed. I'm not a genius, I said. I just finally started making decisions based on logic instead of emotions. That's what makes you a genius. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Gladys, this is Hayes. I'm in California. I wanted you to know I'm sorry. For everything. I hope someday you can forgive me. I showed the message to Danielle, who read it and shrugged. Are you going to reply? What would be the point? Hayes had tried to contact us several times over the past months. Letters forwarded through Mrs. Melinda, emails that went straight to spam, a Christmas card that Danielle threw away unopened. He was living in Los Angeles now, according to Zachary, working as a junior associate at some mid-level firm and sharing a studio apartment with a roommate 20 years younger than him. Tiffany, meanwhile, had moved back to her hometown in Ohio after failing to find work in our city. Her reputation had preceded her everywhere she applied. The last I heard, she was working at a call center and living with her parents. Do you miss him? Danielle asked as we gathered our things for the day. I miss the man I thought he was, I said carefully. But that man never really existed. What I miss is the fantasy. I don't miss him at all, she said matter-of-factly. Our life is better without him. He was right. Without the constant tension of Hayes's lies and late nights, our home had become peaceful. Danielle's grades had improved. She had joined the debate team, where her talent for devastating arguments served her well, and she smiled more often. The dark circles under her eyes had disappeared. As for me, I had rediscovered parts of myself that had been dormant for years. I was taking art classes, reading voraciously, volunteering at the women's shelter downtown. I had even started writing again. Not the great American novel I had once dreamed of, but a blog about rebuilding your life after betrayal. It was gaining a following. The doorbell rang as we were heading out. I opened it to find a delivery man with an enormous bouquet of white roses. Gladys Kingston? That's me. The card read, "To the strongest woman I know. Thank you for showing Danielle what self-respect looks like. Kingston Nicholas." My former father-in-law had kept his word. He treated Danielle and me like family. Better than family, actually. Birthday cards, holiday invitations, surprise flowers just because. He had even set up a college fund for Danielle that would cover any school she wanted to attend. Grandpa Nicholas? Danielle grinned as she read the card. He's the best. That evening I was reviewing my investment portfolio when my phone rang. Mrs. Melinda, which was unusual. Our business was long finished. Gladys, I have news you'll find interesting. Good news or bad news? Depends on your perspective. Hayes is trying to file for bankruptcy. I laughed. Let me guess, he can't afford the alimony payments? Worse than that. Apparently he made some spectacularly bad investment decisions in California. Lost what little money he had left in some cryptocurrency scheme. Now he's claiming financial hardship and asking the court to reduce his obligations to you. Can he do that? He can try. But here's the beautiful part. Bankruptcy doesn't eliminate alimony obligations, especially when they're based on punitive damages for adultery. He's stuck paying you until the day he dies or you remarry. I'm not planning to remarry anytime soon. Then Hayes Kingston is going to be working minimum wage jobs for the rest of his natural life just to keep up with what he owes you. After Mrs. Melinda hung up, I sat on my balcony overlooking the city lights and thought about the strange turns life takes. A year ago, I had been planning Hayes' surprise birthday party, agonizing over the perfect gift for a man who was already shopping for my replacement. Now I was financially independent, emotionally free, and raising a daughter who understood that self-respect wasn't negotiable. My phone buzzed with another text from Hayes. I saw the bankruptcy didn't work. I deserve a second chance, Gladys. Everyone makes mistakes. This time I did reply, everyone makes mistakes, Hayes. But not everyone makes choices to betray the people who love them. Enjoy California. Then I blocked his number permanently. 1 year after the anniversary party that changed everything, Danielle and I were living our best lives. I had purchased 2 rental properties with my settlement money, and the passive income was more than enough to cover our expenses. Danielle was thriving at her new school, where she was student body president and captain of the debate team. My blog had evolved into a book deal, a memoir about reclaiming your power after betrayal. We had dinner every Sunday with Kingston Nicholas, who had become more of a father figure to me than my own father had ever been. Zachary visited often too and had become like the brother I never had. The Kingston family, the real Kingston family, was stronger than ever even without Hayes in it. The first anniversary of the slap, as it was now known, was approaching and Danielle had an idea. Mom, we should throw a party. A party. A celebration. 1 year of freedom. 1 year of being ourselves instead of what Dad wanted us to be. That feels a little vindictive, don't you think? Mom, you wrote the book on overcoming betrayal. Literally. You're helping women all over the country find their strength. That deserves celebrating. He was right. My book, After the Dance, Rebuilding Your Life When Love Lies, had become a bestseller. I was getting interview requests, speaking invitations, book tour opportunities. What had started as my personal catastrophe had become my professional triumph. We planned a small gathering, Zachary, Kingston Nicholas, my book club friends, some of Danielle's classmates and the women from my support group. Nothing elaborate, just good food, good wine, and good company. The night before the party, Kingston Nicholas called with news that brought everything full circle. Gladys, I thought you should know. Hayes is back in town. My heart skipped. Back? Why? Job interview apparently. The firm he was working for in California let him go last month. He's desperate. Is he coming to the party? Kingston Nicholas's voice hardened. He's not invited. And if he shows up uninvited, I'll personally escort him off the premises. The party was perfect. Intimate, joyful, and free of drama. We celebrated not just survival but transformation. I was no longer the woman who had stood silently while her husband danced with another woman. I was the woman who had rebuilt her life from the ashes of betrayal. As the evening wound down, Zachary pulled me aside. Gladys, there's something I need to tell you. What is it? Hayes came to see me yesterday. Begged me to intercede with you, to ask you to take him back. I felt a familiar tightness in my chest. What did you tell him? I told him that bridge was burned beyond repair. But Gladys, he's not doing well. He's lost weight, looks like he's been sleeping rough. Part of me wonders if you've been too harsh. I looked around my apartment, at Danielle laughing with her friends, at the women from my support group sharing stories of their own triumphs, at the life I had built from nothing. Zachary, I said gently, Hayes made his choices. He chose Tiffany over me. He chose public humiliation over private conversation. He chose lies over truth and selfishness over family. Those weren't mistakes, they were character revelations. But he's my brother. And Danielle is his daughter. Did he think about her when he was flaunting his affair? Did he consider her feelings when he brought his mistress to our anniversary? Zachary looked older suddenly, the weight of his brother's failures etched in the lines of his face. You're right, he said quietly. You've always been right. I'm not right or wrong. I'm just done enabling him to treat people badly without consequences. As the guests began to leave, I felt a presence behind me. I turned to find Danielle standing in the doorway, her face serious. Mom, Dad's outside. My heart jumped. What? I saw him through the window. He's just standing there. On the sidewalk. Staring up at our building. I walked to the window and looked down. There he was, Hayes Kingston, the man who had once been my whole world. He looked smaller than I remembered, diminished by failure and consequences. He stood under a streetlight like a ghost haunting the scene of his former happiness. Should we call the police? Danielle asked. No. He's not breaking any laws. He's just grieving, I think. Grieving what? The life he threw away. We watched him for 20 minutes. He never moved, never looked away from our windows. Finally, a police car pulled up. Someone else in the building must have called, and Hayes walked away into the night. Do you feel sorry for him? Danielle asked. I considered the question carefully. I feel sorry for the man he could have been. But the man he chose to become? Well, I don't feel sorry for him at all. 2 weeks later, Hayes made his last desperate play. I was at Barnes & Noble for a book signing when he appeared. I was mid-sentence talking to a woman about finding strength after betrayal, when I saw him lurking near the biography section. Our eyes met across the crowded bookstore and I saw something in his expression that made my skin crawl. Desperation. He waited until the event was over, until the last book was signed and the last reader had left. Then he approached my table like a man walking to his execution. Hello, Gladys. Hayes. I didn't look up from packing my books. I have a restraining order drafted if you're planning to make this a habit. I just want to talk. We have nothing to discuss. Please. His voice cracked. 5 minutes. That's all I ask. I looked at him then, really looked. He had lost at least 30 pounds. His clothes hung on him like he was playing dress up in someone else's wardrobe. His face was gaunt, aged beyond his 43 years. 5 minutes, I said. But we talk here in public where people can see us. He sat across from me at the small table where I had been signing books about overcoming betrayal. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. I've lost everything, he said without preamble. Yes, you have. My job, my family, my father's respect, my future, everything. I'm aware. Gladys, I know I hurt you. I know I made terrible choices. But this punishment is beyond anything I deserve. I set down the pen I had been holding and met his eyes. Is it? I'm living in my car, Gladys. Eating at soup kitchens. I can't get a job because every time someone Googles my name, that video comes up. And I'm begging, for mercy. For a second chance. I leaned back in my chair and studied the stranger wearing my ex-husband's face. Do you remember our 5th anniversary? He looked confused by the change of subject. What? Our 5th anniversary. I had planned a romantic dinner at home. I cooked your favorite meal, bought wine, dressed up. You came home 3 hours late because you had to finish a project. I don't remember. Of course you don't. Do you remember our 10th anniversary? Gladys, what does this have to? You forgot entirely. Went out with your colleagues instead. I spent the evening alone, wondering what I had done wrong. His face was reddening. That's not fair. Our 15th anniversary? You remembered, but only because your secretary reminded you. You picked up gas station flowers on the way home and acted like they were a thoughtful gift. Stop. For 17 years, Hayes, I celebrated our marriage alone. I planned every anniversary, every special moment, every romantic gesture. I built our relationship while you just lived in it. That's not true. And when you got bored, when the woman who loved you unconditionally wasn't exciting enough anymore, you decided to trade her in for a newer model. Publicly. At the one anniversary celebration that was supposed to be ours. Hayes was crying now, actual tears streaming down his cheeks. I know I messed up. You didn't mess up, Hayes. You revealed who you really are. And who you really are is a man who takes love for granted, who breaks promises when they become inconvenient, and who hurts the people closest to him without a second thought. People change. You're right. They do. I stood up and gathered my things. I changed. I learned to value myself. I learned that I deserve better than a man who sees me as disposable. Gladys, please. You want mercy, Hayes? Here's your mercy. I'm not going to extend your suffering by giving you false hope. You're free to build a new life, find someone who doesn't know your history, start over. But that life won't include me or Danielle. She's my daughter. She's her own person. And she's chosen not to have a relationship with you. I respect her choice. I started to walk away, then turned back one last time. Oh, and Hayes, stop feeling sorry for yourself. You're not the victim here. You're the architect of your own destruction. Own it. As I left the bookstore, I heard him call my name one final time. But I didn't turn around. There was nothing left to say, nothing left to forgive or forget. Hayes Kingston was my past. My future was waiting at home, where my daughter was probably doing homework and texting her friends about her upcoming debate tournament. 5 years later. The notification popped up on my phone as I was reviewing the final edits for my second book. Hayes Kingston has sent you a friend request on LinkedIn. I stared at the screen for a moment, then deleted the notification without opening it. Some doors once closed should stay that way forever. Danielle was home from Harvard for winter break, and we were planning our traditional New Year's Eve celebration. Just the two of us, fancy takeout and terrible movies. It had become our favorite holiday, a time to reflect on how far we had come and plan for the adventures ahead. Mom, she called from the kitchen, there's an article about Dad in the Los Angeles Times. Good news or bad news? Predictably bad news. Wife number 3 just filed for divorce. Apparently he hasn't changed his spots. I wasn't surprised. A man who betrays one woman will betray another. It's not about the woman, it's about the man's character. My phone rang. Kingston Nicholas, now in his 70s but still sharp as a tack. Gladys, did you see? About Hayes. Yes. How are you holding up? I stopped grieving for my son years ago, he said sadly. Some people are determined to be their own worst enemies. That evening, as Danielle and I settled in with Chinese food and a ridiculous romantic comedy, I reflected on the strange mathematics of loss and gain. Hayes had lost everything: family, money, respect, peace, chasing something that was never real. Meanwhile, I had gained everything that mattered: self-respect, financial security, unbreakable bonds with the people who truly loved me, and the knowledge that I was strong enough to survive anything. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had stayed? Danielle asked during a commercial break. Every day for the first 6 months, I admitted. Then I realized I was asking the wrong question. What should you have been asking? Not what would have happened if I stayed, but what wouldn't have happened if I left. Like what? Like you learning that women don't have to accept disrespect. Like me discovering I could build a life that was entirely my own. Like both of us understanding that love without respect isn't love at all. It's just elaborate tolerance. I'm glad you left him, Mom. So am I, sweetheart. So am I. As the movie played and my daughter curled up next to me on our couch in our apartment that no one could take away from us, I thought about the woman I had been 3 years ago. The woman who had stood in that ballroom watching her husband betray her publicly, feeling her world collapse in real time. That woman had been stronger than she knew. She just needed to be tested to find out. The last text message I ever received from Hayes came at 11:58 p.m. on New Year's Eve. I dream about our life together sometimes. The good times. Do you ever miss those days? I looked at Danielle asleep against my shoulder. I looked at our home filled with books and laughter and hope. I looked at the woman in the mirror across the room, confident, successful, unafraid. I deleted the message without responding. Some dances end so better ones can begin. And my dance, our dance was just getting started.